Hello and welcome to Faultlines. I'm your host SHAHZAD RAZA. US President Donald Trump has cancelled his visit to India where he was supposed to attend a Quad meeting. Quad is a group of India, Australia, Japan and United States of America. And the group's core aim and objective is to enhance the security of the four countries, and also the scope broadens to other strategic subjects. Not long ago, Indian Prime Minister was regarded as a favorite of successive US administration. The relationship between two countries were ideal, and India was acting as a proxy of the United States of America against China and other countries in the region. But everything changed during the second term of President Donald Trump. Now, Narendra Modi is visiting China after 7 years, which many believe is a desperate attempt to pull the country out of isolation in which he put it into at the first place. This is the important issue we are going to discuss in this program, and in the studio I'm being joined by senior analyst ZAFAR. Thank you very much, ZAFAR Saab, for your time. On the video link we have with us Air Commodore ADIL Sultan. He's a senior defense analyst. Thank you very much, Air Commodore Saab, for your time. Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan is also joining us. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for your time as well. ZAFAR Saab, what exactly was a turning point between the relationship of India and the United States? Was that India's shameful defeat in the hands of Pakistani security forces a few months back, or things?
Well, thank you, Shahzad. Number of developments have taken place which have created this kind of void between India and United States. And one of them obviously is India's behavior during May this year, during Operation, their so-called Operation Sindoor, and our response, Operation Banyan al-Marsus. Beyond that, what India is failing to understand is that the world is rapidly changing. Mr. Trump, as we have discussed in these studios many times, is not a traditional president. Mr. Trump does not rely on traditional foreign policy feeding mechanisms that exist in Washington D.C. On the think tank circuit, on the lobbying circuit, and all that. He wants to move beyond that. So one of the fundamental issue which is different from past presidents is that he looks at security vis-a-vis China or Russia in different terms. He looks at not competing them always, but trying to bridge gaps between China, United States and Russia. These are actual great powers, to borrow a term from some analysts. These are actual great powers in the world right now. So India does not understand that this shifting behavior in United States is not looking at India as a counterweight to China now. India had positioned itself under Mr. Jaishankar as counterweight to China. Since 2019, that has been the theme. And India's problem is that it has always looked at foreign policy in binaries, and is also looking for a zero-sum game. So all the factors like the so-called phone call somewhere in June, the tariff issue, and everything feeds into one thing, and that is that the world's strategic map is changing.
Of course. Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan Saab, you must have remembered that during the first term of President Donald Trump, Mr. Modi and President Trump, they were addressing big rallies in each other's country, and there were reports of their supposed or reported friendship and deep friendship. But you think that everything changed so suddenly, or things were getting piled up over the period of time, and then when the time came or the triggering event occurred, then only people came to know what exactly happened behind the door?
The actual flashpoint was, and the triggering point was the India-Pakistan war. But yes, it has a background, as you mentioned. There was a time once Howdy Modi, and in the first term of Trump, the kind of optics they had created. In fact, Modi had given complete understanding to Trump that all his votes, more than 1.2 or 1.5 million, would go to him, which later on it is reported that Trump found that that was not correct. And the votes were not really given as promised of the US, Indian origin US citizens. So that is one part. Second part is that it is also been reported that once Trump wanted to speak with Modi, and he delayed or he declined. So that was another thing. Modi thought that Trump would never come and pass, but even that was perhaps not that serious issue. But the serious issue it became was that the phone call which Modi had initiated. Rather, the Trump and Modi, they agreed to talk. And then in that conversation, Trump mentioned about the way he solved the
Right.
problem, India-Pakistan conflict, and Modi denied that and said that ceasefire was direct between India and Pakistan, whereas Trump had mentioned it about 40 times. That was, I would say, a triggering point. And then Trump also mentioned about Pakistan, that Pakistan has nominated him for the Nobel Prize, and that could imply that India could also do that. You know, and then this claim and that 40 times which he's been repeating that he was the one who mediated
Right.
post May 10th. So, and then obviously between the countries, once you have this kind of a conversation between the head of states, it does impact the relations of the country. And what happened subsequently, that Trump definitely was not happy and his country was not happy, that the most powerful president of the most powerful
Sure.
country says that he is the one who mediated, which was a factual position. And 40 times he said that he's mediated. And for every time India would say no. So that means they probably lamented him to be a
Right, sir.
liar. That, every time is so that could be one, and that is probably one of the flashpoints which brought India to this stage, and the tariff trade of 50% and deteriorating relation. What we see now, Trump canceling his plan to visit Quads and canceling his plan of visiting India. So these instances which India has been having through its foreign office, as well as through the head of state, that really triggered the whole
Point noted, sir. Point
controversy.
noted,
But then,
Ambassador Saab. Point.
uh,
Uh, let me bring
but
Dr. Adil Sultan into the debate. Dr. Adil Sultan, New York Times has reported that the 30 years romance between India and United States has come to an end. But does it mean that India earlier had a very strong and special place in the US South Asia or Southeast Asia policy, and that's why it was behaving like it is, kind of a sole policeman in the region, checking China, Pakistan, or any other country having some sort of disputes or bad relations with the United States of America. So, are we safe in assuming that India has lost that position?
I beg to disagree with this because of the reason when Trump came into power second time, they both signed an agreement which was known as Compact. And if you see the scope of that agreement, it included so many things. It was the scope was that included collaboration in emerging technologies from military, trade, and everything. So I think they started on a good footing, even in the second tenure. It is just because this after this conflict, once Trump tried to claim his success that he was the one instrumental in stopping this war, Pakistan immediately acknowledged and appreciated Trump. And Trump is a kind of person who loves himself and he loves people who appreciate him. So all those leaders, those who understood his psyche and they acknowledge his contributions, I think they were spared. But India probably misread or misjudged Trump, and they tried to play a hardball with United States this time. And Trump probably used this opportunity to give message to third country, that is Russia as well. So some people say, as the trade advisor to President Trump, he labeled US-Russia war as Modi's war. So I think they are trying to extract political concessions from President Putin or Russia by using Modi, but Modi probably or India probably misjudged their position, and they tried to take a stance which has not been taken very pleasantly within the United States, and especially Trump. And that's the price that they are going to pay. But in the long run, it's the Trump phenomena. It will be eventually over. India is a bigger country, and it has always been a priority for United States from the very start. Even when we were close to United States, they preferred India many a times over Pakistan. So I think it's a short-term phenomena, and Trump would be away in 3 years' time, and probably United States and India would be back on track. There's so much at stake for both countries. They cannot just dispose of India.
There's been always growing interest of U.S. investors in India, given the size of Indian economy or Indian market. But what the decision, President Donald Trump, imposed 50% tariff on Indian goods, some exemptions, of course. So don't you think that he knew that what implications are going to be of his decision? And India, although the close ally, but still India was on the, United States was on the receiving end vis-a-vis India as far as the bilateral trades were concerned. So don't you think that this decision would go, far away, when it will have a wide-ranging or long-term effect between the two countries? So not the short term or,
Yeah, Trump being a businessman, he exactly knows the cost of this relationship, and that's why I say that probably he was using India to bait Russia or President Putin to extract those concessions. Right. Otherwise, if oil was a major issue, he didn't sanction China. He didn't put those tariffs on China. China is a bigger country. You can't compare with India. But I think that Trump also knows it. He was trying it, but somehow it couldn't go in the right direction. And on tariffs, again, you must have heard that that is also becoming questionable or sustainable. Probably India is banking on US legal system, probably, and there could be a possibility that the courts overrule President Trump, and there could be some internal fissures within the United States administration. So we have to see what happens after October, after the court rulings, whether Trump would withstand those pressures or he will continue to push India.
All right, all right. And ZAFAR Sahab, India tried to iron out the differences. I mean, desperate attempts were made, but although never successful. And as my esteemed guest was saying, that the optics are very important. So inviting Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir all the way to White House and inviting him to the United States of America twice. So doing that while the two countries, United States of America and Pakistan, were discussing important issue, maybe Afghanistan or Iran, but at the same time, the White House was giving a clear indication to India that where our priorities are going to be this time.
Yes, as I was mentioning earlier, that there seems to be a strategic shift. I am not ready to take it just as Mr. Trump's own personal agenda, getting very angry. I mean, obviously there are personal likes and dislikes, and you can feel personally snubbed if someone has not accepted or recognized your efforts to bring peace between Pakistan and India. But I think there is some shift in terms of policy. India's strategic role in the region, that is under question. Under President Trump, that strategic role for the US policymakers is diminishing. Their new priorities do not see India as a guarantor of muscle in the Pacific. India thought that it had that muscle, and it could show to the world that it is a counterweight to China. But during Pakistan-India conflict, it became apparent that India could not even match up to a country which is much smaller in its size, its economy, even in numbers, military power. Obviously, Pakistan performed very well because of its coordinated, well networked systems and weapons.
Does it mean that the Americans now have realized that they have bet on the wrong horse?
Well, I will not say that they will completely abandon India, but they just want India's expectations to come down to a realistic level. India's problem, as I said earlier, is that it looks at a zero-sum game. It looks at foreign relations and bilateral relations in zero-sum game. Zero-sum game and binaries. For example, when they were getting good response from the US, were developing relationship, they were always like trying to undermine Pakistan-US relationship. But on the other hand, Pakistan does not look at these relationships in binaries. When India was developing its own relationship with US, we were doing fine with US. We are opening up to Russia without questioning what kind of relationship Russia has with India. On the other hand, look at the way India has reacted to Pakistan's relationship with Turkey, for example. That their society and their policymakers everyone is angry on Turkey that it has a defense relationship with Pakistan. Similarly, Pakistan looks at Pakistan's relationship with Iran as Pakistan-Iran relationship and tries to manage things despite Iran sometimes being used by India as a base to launch its spy missions into Pakistan. So despite that, India's problem is that it has pegged itself to, despite trying to tell the world that the world should not peg itself, peg it to Pakistan, should not hyphenate it with Pakistan. Whenever it talks, it hyphenates itself to Pakistan.
Very right. Ambassador Jameel Ahmed Khan, so United States of America is not the only country India is having trouble with. I mean, India had two key allies in the region, of course, Russia, and India had very good relations, economic and bilateral relations with Iran. But what happened during the past few months and years that during Ukraine-Russia war, India kept a mysterious silence, and same happened during when Israel attacked Iran. So now the two countries, do you think that it further added to Indian isolation, given that it abandoned its allies in the time of need or difficulty?
No, that's one part. And the second part is that there were about 73 arrests once Israel-Iran war was going on, pre-war and post-war. The Iranians have arrested, and they found that the Indian nationals were also colliding with Mossad. And that is also, again, some of the reports suggest that. There was an evidence that India, on the face of it, had a friendship, but otherwise its nationals there. And we also know that how the Iranian soil has been used for a variety of purposes, and which was detrimental to the interest of Iran. And this time, of course, it was a big blow. But then, yes, the example of keeping quiet while Israel was attacking Iran, and the Indians are the one, they got the best of the best from Iran's relations, what they've been claiming. And then, and they also, they did have good relations. They got the oil at the very, say, low price, and they got the exemption from United States. So they've been exploiting quite a lot, both Russia and Iran. Russian oil they've been purchasing, and they've been further selling it to the other countries. Iran oil they've been purchasing at a very low rate, and they've been further, selling it to the third parties. So, but then more important, the flashpoint and the main bone of contention was so many arrests which had taken place, people colliding, Indian origin people colliding with Mossad and leaking some of the informations there. So that was one part. But the second part is, once we talk about this region and the dynamics, why it's changing, you mentioned in the very early part of our discussion, that Donald Trump is not a traditional president. He has really molded a foreign policy. And then we can see the demonstration of that molded foreign policy or recalibrated foreign policy, in which he has a very soft language which he uses and approach which he has, both towards China as well as Russia. He wants to have a normal relation with Russia. He wants to have a
The
normal
point is,
relation with China.
Ambassador
He
Saab,
wants to compete.
Ambassador Saab, the point is what really
Yes,
changed
yes.
President Donald Trump's mind in the second term, because during the first term, the relationship between the two countries or the two leaders were ideal. So what exactly forced President Donald Trump to change his mind in the second term vis-a-vis India?
Well, vis-a-vis India, as we mentioned a couple of the points earlier, that a most powerful president of the most powerful country is repeatedly saying that he's the one who did the mediation. And repeatedly, India has been denying that, which tantamounts to just lamenting Donald Trump as when he's telling something a lie. So that's one part. And the second part is just recently, once Trump was in a meeting, G7 meeting in Canada, July. So he did indicate to Modi that on your way back, you can visit the United States, which Modi declined. So that kind of an arrogance, obviously, once the two countries have been claiming
Right.
that they are friends, and they indeed are. Basically, there are more than 6 very robust type of agreements which which is a collaboration in manufacturing of the defense, arms, ammunition, and armament. So the India definitely still has a priority, but not as big a priority, because Donald Trump wants to cut the cost of all his expenses, which is expenses on the Indian Ocean policing. And they have also seen that India, for the purpose India was really made that, was given so much of help to
Very right,
become
sir.
strong, could not really stand in front of Pakistan. So that
Very
was
right,
another
very right.
part of it. But
Okay.
yeah,
Dr. Adil Sultan, don't you think there is another important factor which played into the whole ball game? With that is the saffronization of India, the kind of policy the Modi Sarkar followed over the years. I mean, the minorities are not safe over there. India had hegemonic design all over the region, these false flag operation, and again followed by an aggression against Pakistan, and state-sponsored killing all over the world, including Canada, United States of America, and all other important countries. So you think that that was one of the factors, important factors that played the role?
Shahzad Sahab, these things have been happening. It didn't change United States priorities earlier. India tried to annex Indian occupied Kashmir. It did so many other things against the minorities. Under Prime Minister Modi, so much has happened in India, but none of the US leaders or Western leaders, they pointed any ills in India. So I don't think so. Those are the factors. But your earlier question, what has transpired between India and United States in the last couple of months? So we have to see that on February 13, President Trump hosted Prime Minister Modi at the White House, and they signed that agreement that I earlier mentioned. If we just go through that agreement, it talks about collaboration at every level in industries, high-end technologies, space, and they were all set to send Indian astronaut to International Space Station jointly. Joint collaboration and developments of underwater drones. So those were the kinds of things that they were planning to do. And when Trump was supposed to visit New Delhi later this year, they had prepared a follow-up agreement we signed. And in the same compact joint statement that was issued on the Valentine's night, February 13, I always say that President Trump's gift to Prime Minister Modi, or a Valentine's gift. It also talked about the Squad meeting being hosted by India. So United States was all set, or President Trump was all set to visit India later this year. So between February and May, what has changed? So I think there are two factors. One, India-Pakistan war. Pakistan gave credit to Trump. Prime Minister Modi thought it's not wise to give credit to because it's not good for his domestic politics. He wanted to take that credit and spin that story that India has been successful and it can withstand external pressure, even President Trump. So that's where he probably misjudged President Trump. Second was Russia-Ukraine war. Again, President Trump was very desperate because he has put in so much of his political capital in stopping that conflict, and he wants to get that credit. And you have seen recently President Trump invited Putin and all the most of the Western leaders. He couldn't get that, so he was pushing India, or he was signaling India or Putin, both sides. I think he wanted to use India to add pressure on President Putin, but India didn't relent. And we should also take into consideration that US
Like
India
देख लो
were into trade talks. They were not. It's not that they were not talking. There were some elements like India didn't want to give concession on agriculture. So that was one of the contentious points. That's why the trade talks broke. So we have to see in context all these things.
All right. So, Anis Zafar Saab, I mean, taking cue from Dr. Adil Sultan's answer, it was there were two wars, Pakistan, India, and Russia and Ukraine. That changed the mind or the approach of President Donald Trump, and that made him really, really upset. The India's response to President Donald Trump's intervention, easing tension between Pakistan and India. So we nominated President Trump for the Nobel Prize, or even recommended President Trump that he should be given the Nobel Peace Prize, while India, on the other hand, categorically denying at different level that any such intervention took place. So you think that was a bad foreign policy, or they miscalculated how US or Trump administration would respond to India's denials?
Well, Indian Foreign Office has always prided itself in being very cool and calculated. But now that stance of India, which was traditionally very cool and calculated and mired foreign policy, is overtaken by, as you rightly mentioned, by politics, by Hundavta, by saffronization. So now the Indian foreign policy is more inward looking. It responds to internal sentiment. It plays on internal sentiment. So for them to sort of show, and on the other hand, they want to project themselves as a world level power, not even a regional power. They wanted to be taken as a world level power. Now, if you have that kind of image of yourself and you come across someone like Mr. Donald Trump, who likes to throw his weight around, push people around, be a hard bargainer, you have to really be very smart in dealing with him. But for India, the problem was that it is too fearful of its own constituency, domestic constituency, the saffronized society, in which now it is impossible to question the foreign policy or economic policy of the government. So that has impacted their calculations, their engagement with the world leaders like Mr. Trump. So that is what has happened, that they have not really been able to openly communicate. They want to do everything in the backgrounds, in the closed doors, but that is not Mr. Trump's style.
Does it mean that Mr. Modi's advisors, they advised him not to publicly accept American intervention during Pakistan-India war, because it would hurt his vote bank?
Yes,
it would be detrimental to his petty domestic politics.
The image he has
created
for himself as a strong man,
right?
And they Vishwaguru kind of image.
Very right.
That would have hurt badly if he had accepted that he agreed to a ceasefire on US intervention.
Of course. Ambassador Jamil Ahmed Khan, now Mr. Modi is visiting China after 7 years. So, I mean, he's there, of course, to attend the SCO summit, but many, neutral analysts in his own country, they believe that it is a desperate attempt to come out of the isolation. Would you agree with them or no?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, any country for that matter would like to really balance its the foreign policy. You know, if they are having a setback from one side, they would like to balance it from the other side. And India, they know they can only progress and flourish and have their higher trajectory of growth rate if they collaborate with the global south. The way, as they say that it's the century of Asians. But the previous point, I'll just dilate upon one quick point that, you know, we've been discussing it time and again about the mediation matter. But India, obviously, still they have the whole foreign ministry and all these advisors. Basically, if they admit that there was a third party, in this case, Trump, then they'll have to really accept the mediation, and they have to really abide by some of the United Nations Security Council resolutions in relation to Kashmir, because that's what they've been doing it for the last so many decades, that after the Shimla agreement, they would always say that's between the two countries, it's bilateral, and there is no mediation, no multilateral thing and that. So coming back on that point, China visit, yes, they want to achieve two goals with it. One, that they don't want to now put all their basket eggs in one basket, that is the United States and its allies. They are still part of Quads. They are still collaborating and helping, although they are not part of AUKUS, but they are collaborating and helping them. Basically, what for the Quad was established and what for the AUKUS is established. Basically, the containment of China and the counterbalance is the India. So they still, it will take a little while for the United States to completely change its foreign policy. They have not really indicated that they have, you know, completely changed, but their move, what they are the indications of the various steps what they are taking, it appears that they do not want to go into any conflict. For example, they have their nuclear propelled submarines in the Indian Ocean and close to the Malacca, state of Malacca. But Trump, as a policy, wants that there
Point
should be
taken,
any conflict.
Mr. Ambassador. Point taken. I'm sorry that we are getting short of time. Ambassador, Dr. Adil Sultan Saab, you think that this is the beginning of Mr. Modi's downfall, because he's committing mistakes after mistakes, and instead of, you know, repairing its relation with the immediate neighbor, he's still pursuing the same old policy of hurting the interest of any other country which has the potential of competing India.
We can wish for, but I think it's too early to predict. India is a big country. Prime Minister Modi is a strong leader. Yes, despite all his follies, I think United States and China both wants to have some relationship with Prime Minister Modi. Eventually, they will get over with this patch, and we'll have to see what kind of relationship they are able to restore. Damage has been done. Trust has been broken between United States and India. It will take a long time before they can get back to the same level of cooperation between that. But China would be interesting, as you must have seen that the body language was quite somber on both sides, and some of the media reports that both sides are trying to give message that they need to work to build bridges between the two countries, large countries. 2.8 billion people live over here. So I think India will also use this SCO summit to signal to the United States that it has options. And China would also like to exploit this opportunity, this temporary break between US and India, to draw India closer to itself. And we'll have to see how things shape up in the future.
Of course, thank you very much for your valuable comment. Lastly, Anik Zafar Saab, now Indian public, the Indian people, I mean, they are not fools. I mean, they have a long history of democracy, of course. I mean, they cast vote and they know what is good and bad for them and for their country. So until how long Mr. Modi and his cronies are going to, you know, befool the people of India? I mean, limit is limit. Now they have exposed not only domestically but internationally. So
well, look,
can we say that the next general elections are going to be really tough and the test case for?
Well,
no?
Look, while on the foreign policy front, there may be challenges for India. but their economy is doing fine. Their growth rate for the last quarter is like 7.8%, which is a very handsome growth rate. So until unless the blunders on the foreign policy front or this temporary setback, whatever way we like to see it, until it start hurting the market, it start hurting people's pockets and economic growth, so people start feeling the pinch. Till then, I think he does not have that kind of challenge in India. The opposition forces are not as strong. They do not have a strong platform of countering Mr. Modi. Foreign policy alone does not determine elections. Economy is a major.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Before the elections, when they were campaigning and trying to lure the people into their fold, so the primary slogan was that they would bring back the same old glory to India. I don't know what that glory was, but obviously there was a open reference to Pakistan that they would have an upper hand. So most of the people, they are now started questioning if you have dismantled the entire so-called terrorist network. So why have you stopped? And why have you stopped if you were unsuccessful?
Yes, his tactics, his politics is being questioned right now, but my point remains the same, that will that only be the reason for his downfall, while some other factors may continue to be positive, like the economic growth, like the markets, foreign investment, and all that. So, and elections are a few years down the road, general elections. We will see in somewhere in November, I think there is election in Bihar. We will see what kind of impact it has in Bihar.
That would show the mood of the electorate.
That will show the mood of electorate. And then again, India is a very large country. But the center of Mr. Modi's power politics or politics is cow belt. And Bihar reflects cow belt.
Of course,
so we'll see.
Of course, very, very interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Aniq Zafar, for your time. Thank you very much, Dr. ADIL Sultan Saab and Ambassador Jameel Ahmed Khan Saab, for your valuable time. Of course, Narendra Modi is facing tough troubles, challenges of his entire premiership, and so far the Indian public and Indian intellectuals, they have started asking the questions. Whatever promises the BJP made with the people, they failed to fulfill them, and of course they have annoyed their key allies across the globe, including the United States of America, Russia and Iran, and so many other countries. However, it is to be seen how they would behave, how they would react, but at the moment the isolation is there, and the Indian Prime Minister is desperately seeking help and running pillar to post to get the country out of that isolation. Thank you very much, viewers, for watching the program. Good night and Khuda Hafiz.